We're back. But, all right. It's going to be a little bit of a soft-spoken video. And also, I just took a shower, so my hair is all messed up, but you're just going to have to deal with it. Kind of just holding the camera, not really. Don't really got my tripod out or anything. But this video is about remaining humble. Remaining humble in the society that we live today with overinflated egos and narcissists and people that believe that just because they're them means that they're better than someone. You know, that's not true. We're all equal. One consciousness. We all have the same capabilities as everyone else. It's just in our own way. Just like if you have a dream, all right, if you have a dream, someone else can have a dream, but it's their dream, but they can still commit to it. They just got to do it. But we went from talking about egos to dreams, but humbleness. You got to accept the fact that you're really nothing. You are nothing when it comes to this experience. Everything in this experience, everything in this universe, everything that exists is part of you. But you got to acknowledge that if everything that is in existence, if it ceased to exist, then you wouldn't exist either. You got to look at yourself in the mirror, and you have to stare into your eyes and realize that you're really just as normal as anybody else. You don't have any advantage. You don't have any... You're not more powerful than anyone, though status makes it seem that way, even though that's not the case. Some people can have more power, like you have just as much power as everyone else. It's just in your own way. You know, some people use fear for power, but I feel that's pretty corrupt. So it's pretty it's just a world that we live in today. But like I was saying, you got to stare in the mirror and just look at yourself and acknowledge that you're just as normal as everybody else. Nothing more or less special than anybody. You have to realize that when it comes to being out of the norm, it's not because you're better or worse. but it's because you're you, and everybody is unique to themselves. With ego, it's really just the imagination of the self. You know, it can break you down. It can bring you up. But see, really, if you're just okay with being in that flow state, being in that neutrality, being in that non-duality, then everything works out. That neutrality and humbleness is natural. And sometimes you need ego. Not that you need ego, but you can use it as a tool to defend yourself when, possibly in debates or something, or but it can't go out of hand. Like, the ego is unconscious behavior. So you have to become conscious of the ego before you can even try to use it as a tool. In today's society, with humbleness, people need to be humbled, but it will happen when it happens. People will be humbled in their own way, because the way somebody can be humbled can be different from how someone must be humbled from somebody else. Say that could be embarrassment, or you just get shit on in a competition, or anything. But ego death is the true humblage that I believe in. It's the only humblage. It really makes you take a step back and realize that you really are nothing. You're nothing within the universe, but you're also nothing without the universe. It can go possible ways. Everything's connected, but not attached. I've become okay with, just acknowledging the fact that not everybody is going to enjoy this content, and also that this content is different. It's definitely different, and that's why it's not for everyone. But when it also comes to the internet and ego, nowadays people use the internet to heighten or raise their ego even more, strengthen it, even though it's a trap. The more you strengthen your ego, the deeper you go into unconsciousness. You start to form that conditioned way of thinking, and that conditioned way of thinking becomes a norm. becomes unconscious to the point where it doesn't matter who or what is telling you what they could be telling you. You just see it as whatever outside of yourself. You sort of see it as not as good as your way of thinking, if you can see it that way. Sometimes it takes a little bit for me to process the words that are flowing through me, because you really have to be quiet. I have to be quiet in order to let this knowledge flow through me. Because if I don't, then it's too loud. The mind will be too loud. It will be too clouded for me to even allow those thoughts to flow into this experience through my throat chakra right here. So when I do these videos, I have to do it my way. I can't do it anybody else's way. I have to do it the way that feels most flowy for me. It's just, there's a lot of stuff that, causes that inflation of ego. And sometimes when people are at the consciousness of ego, they believe that when someone expresses how they feel about them, they take it personally. But that's not the case. You're aware of how they feel, but you don't really attach to it, because that's not how you feel about yourself. And that's when you know, that's the best part. That's the healthy part about ego, is having a healthy ego. It's finding a balance so that instead of your ego controlling and grasping everything that it can and attaching to it, you attach to nothing and it just slipped away. Hold on. Sometimes I have to focus on my breath. Oh, it's that balance of humbleness, but also healthy defensiveness. to protect yourself. But not from fear, okay? Because fear is always with you. It's always in there until you let go of it. But sometimes fear is always going to pop up because you can't control thoughts. You are not the thinker. You are the awareness. You are that nothingness. In and out, throughout the whole universe. Everything that exists. And what I mean by balanced ego is instead of yelling and going crazy and saying, no, 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 no. That's not it. That's not true. You calmly express how you feel about how someone said. And you calmly assert that you do not want to be spoken to that way, especially if it's not love. If someone's just saying shit to say shit, even though for most people say what they say because they don't even know what they're saying. They're unconscious of what they're saying. And that's why this world, you're not meant to be taking everything seriously. You really come to terms with ego when you realize that everything is just a reflection of you. Because the human species it's a species. The brain is part of that species. The brain is what controls the human body. That thinking, the thought, as you are nothingness, right? When someone outside of yourself may express hatred or a thought that triggers you, you have to let it go. You have to let go of that triggering. Because when someone expresses that thought and it triggers you, that's a reflection of you. Thoughts are just reflections of your own thoughts. That's what I mean by when people talk and express themselves. They express their thoughts. Sometimes thoughts can be the reflection that you're meant to be aware of so that you can heal whatever is being triggered within you. And that's why you have to get used to being in the world of ego while being humble. You know, you got to take everything as constructive criticism. And you got to take everything with a grain of salt because not everything is meant to hurt you. And the only things that do hurt you, you allowed to hurt you. You attached onto that and allowed it to grasp onto the self. you allowed it to, the ego took it as an offense, per se. You got to die before you die. And for some, for actually a lot, you might have heard that before. You got to die before you die. And what I mean by that is your ego must die before your body dies. And so for some, that doesn't happen in the lifetime that they're in. But when it does happen, you become free of that life that you had before. Everything changed. Before, your perspective was opened, expanded. Well, I think that's all I have to say for this video. I said what I said, and it's time to call it a wrap, make it a wrap. So, I love you. Stay safe. Stay present. Peace.